Hi everyone, thank you so much for tuning into this week's edition of the Recruitment Reality Podcast. Really excited to have another chat with Amy, who has since left her previous employer, and she's doing a couple of things that are really exciting within the fashion recruitment industry, and I'm really excited to get a bit of an update. So thank you very much, Amy, for coming on. I guess over to you. It'd be great to get an update of what you're up to at the moment.
So I left my last role 6 months ago, so I think we had spoken actually around that time. So I've gone back into the world of agency, which I'm not going to lie, I never thought I would do. But yeah, do you know what, it's so rewarding, and it's quite fulfilling actually to work with like a variety of different brands again, rather than just focusing on one. So yeah, I'm really enjoying that. So I'm working as a business manager for a small retail recruitment agency called Rise, and we recruit for brands across the UK, across different sectors, but I'm sort of mainly focusing on fashion and e-commerce brands. And I've also set up a side hustle community page. I'm not really sure yet what to call it, but it's called Fashion Career Consultancy. And essentially it is a community page where I am just sharing the biggest tips and tricks when it comes to entering the fashion industry. The page is tailored, I would say, to students, whether that's university students or college students or students in school that want to get into the industry but just don't know where to start. And for me, it was literally an idea that I thought of whilst working in my last company. I was doing a lot of work with placement students and universities, and I thought actually there's so much insight I could give. And I don't know any other pages that you can just get just free advice, tips and tricks on, the reality of working in fashion. So I really want it to be a transparent page where, I'm giving just the truth behind fashion in every area of that as well. So I want people to know, what careers there are, what companies there are out there, how to get an internship if they are saying that, they need experience, or how to get around that, and even how to use LinkedIn and how to network. So there's just certain things I think over 8 years of me working in the industry, I'm just trying to give back now and help people. So yes, I'm quite busy at the minute, but it's all good. It's fun.
Trying to help people whilst also last time we spoke, we talked about the importance of building your own community and brand within your candidate base. So, it's much. I've started a community as well of salespeople, predominantly because I want to speak to other sales leaders and stuff like that. But also a lovely byproduct of that is when I am hiring salespeople, I've got a community of people to go to, I guess.
Yeah.
Are you finding that with your new venture, that actually it is feeding into the other side? You are picking up candidates, or is it more is it more philanthropic?
Do you know what, definitely, and that's it's sort of a reason why I did it anyway, because for me it was gonna build my network anyway, and it would help because a lot of these people are going to end up in fashion hopefully one day, and for me, I'm obviously recruiting for those people in the industry that are recruiting for people in their team. So actually I feel like it all helps, and it's all like connected anyway, and that's why I love the industry and working in fashion, because it's all, I've heard this saying before about it's all about who you know, which I think sometimes can mean, you've got to know a certain person to get to a job. I actually see it as in we can help people that we know in the industry. So I want to help, students and graduates get their, dream job, if it is their dream job in a fashion brand. And then, eventually it's great because I can build a relationship with them from the start, and then hopefully they become heads of buying, merchandising directors, design directors in certain companies, and then I can then help them recruit as well. So it's, for me, I guess I did think that could initially be the concept, but for me, like, I'm still seeing them as probably two separate things day to day, that I'm just recruiting 9 to 5 in my job Monday to Friday, but then when I've got time I am still wanting to create content for people and give talks where I can and help as much as I can, because I just don't think there's that much insight for a lot of people. I think, you know, there's a lot of confusions as well about like job titles and salaries that I think sometimes, like, I've read a few things actually that companies aren't as transparent as they should be. Whereas for me, I'm trying to give like a really unbiased opinion and help sort of do that. So but you know what, the feedback's been great. I think a lot of people that I've spoken to, whether it's students or university lecturers or or teachers that I've been working with really closely, have all found it really like positive, and it's given their students a positive insight into the industry. And it's funny actually, because I think some people like, oh, my parents didn't really want me to get into fashion, and I had that. Like, my parents probably never thought like fashion was a career where you could make loads of money, you could progress, and it is this thing where I think it's a society thing, and that's where I really want to sort of change that impression. And don't get me wrong, I know me, I'm one person, I'm not going to change that on my own, but I feel like it's still really rewarding. And if I can give anything back and help and give an insight and show actually like it's a multi-million-pound industry, there's so much to go at, there's so many brands. Like, even being in Manchester really excites me because there's so many brands here to consider and that are growing and are taking over that industry, that I think actually it's a great city to be in. So if I can also sell Manchester as well and give an insight, then it's helpful, and it's positive.
Awesome. That's it's so interesting to hear. I mean, we're exactly the same in the fact that part of our mission in our community is to build the credibility of Manchester. In terms of the sales community side of things, one of our big things is like just getting the credibility of Manchester out there. For some reason, it still doesn't feel the same as London. You know, I think that is rapidly changing, and actually some of the kind of the most exciting, most sustainable tech businesses in the country are coming out of Manchester.
Absolutely.
Obviously you're recruiting in the e-commerce world, and there's it's quite tumultuous at the moment. How are you finding the market in general? What's the vibe?
You know what? It's interesting. I've gone from working for a brand where, you know, recruitment was just full on. There was just a lot going on. There was a lot of roles, and it never slowed down. And you know, we used to have a few recruitment freezes. And I mean, to be fair, like the retail industry has obviously had a huge sort of negative impact since COVID, with freight issues and everything that's gone on. Obviously just people shopping differently, and people, you know, even cost of living, people are not going to be going out and shopping as much as they used to. So I think it's an interesting time working in recruitment for retail brands. What I found out actually is working in an agency where you've got multiple brands, it's interesting because you see a wider variety of what's going on. And actually, I can see, you know, whether brands are going to administration through Drapers or through LinkedIn that I see. And I feel like I'm seeing that a little bit more regularly, which sometimes I do think, oh gosh, like, how is that going to impact even me as a recruiter? But then, you know what, I think, and we talk about this quite a lot as a business, there's still a lot of brands doing really well and performing really well. I think for me, like, the challenge is actually not with the brands. I think there's still a lot of roles out there, and actually e-commerce is such a growing area for retailers. Like even Primark, you know, having an online business now, and there's so many brands that are introducing that. So they've gone from, you know, bricks and mortar to you know, focusing on online, because that is just, you know, how people's shopping habits have changed. It's more about getting candidates across the line, which I found the struggle. And I think I've probably started, you know, back in agency at a difficult time, because this time of year is really difficult anyway. It's Black Friday, it's peak, it's Christmas, like, people are naturally really busy and they don't really want to leave. Like, this is probably the time where you keep hold of your employees, because it's a nice time to be in a company. You've got your Christmas dues coming up, like, it's just, you know, Christmas markets, bonuses. It's actually a really nice time to be working for a company. So it's way more challenging trying to get candidates across the line. So I found that a little bit trickier, going from working for a brand that, candidates are applying to work for you a lot of the time and your brand sells itself naturally. Whereas when you're a recruiter, obviously you have to a lot of the time go out there, and I'm trying to find the passive candidates that aren't maybe naturally looking to leave. So, but that is the challenge of recruitment. I think it's always been like that. There's a little bit of a change in, obviously when I started 8 years ago in recruitment, people are a little bit more reluctant to leave. But I think, in terms of jobs in the market, I still think the demand is there. And I think actually over time, I think it will improve within e-commerce. And that's why I wanted to working within e-commerce roles, because I do see that as a growing area. So I am really positive actually as a recruiter. I try and be as positive as I can be every day. Don't get me wrong, sometimes it doesn't always come across that way. And sometimes like things will get thrown into the day and you just think, oh gosh, like what's happened? But I think I'm really positive. And like I said, I think working in recruitment in an agency, you actually realise there's so many brands out there, and as a business actually we've invested in like a new software to sort of highlight and show us like companies that are turning over a certain amount of money. So actually we're finding like different SME companies that we've maybe never targeted before or heard of before. So for me it's just focusing on a different approach. It's not about working with all the big brands that I think every agency is probably going after. It's about how to target different companies and newer brands, and I think we found some success with that. So it has been a challenge, but I think this time of year always is. So
I mean personally, I always thought, so when I was in agency world, I had like 400 clients, and most of them were SMEs. And I always thought actually our job as an agency was to give an SME a function that a large organisation actually has in place. So obviously at Boohoo, for example, they've got loads of talent acquisition people. They shouldn't really need to use an agency very often at all. Whereas if you're an SME and you're looking for top talent, nobody's ever heard of you most of the time.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Whereas they've heard of XYZ agency. Yeah. You've got them on the books, and you're fighting to take that candidate away from the big boys. That's all what I always thought.
Yeah, very true. Do you know what? I actually prefer sometimes working for SMEs, and I prefer recruiting on behalf of them. I actually find it really it's quite rewarding actually when someone says they've never heard of a brand, then you give them the big sell on a company, and I honestly, like when I first started recruitment, I actually never saw myself as a salesperson. Even now I feel like I don't think that I do sales, but I mean I obviously do.
Amy, give up. Give up. You absolutely
I do
are a
sales, so
salesperson.
I'm a salesperson. Yeah. I always like to think of recruitment, or maybe my version of recruitment, as a soft sales approach, because I feel like I'm a soft sales recruiter. I feel like I don't know, maybe it's just the way that I am as a person. I always think when I say soft sales, I think because I've got like a softer voice, which obviously has no correlation to that meaning. No. But I do think it helps. I do think I'm a softer sales person. But I do find it like really exciting when someone's never heard of a brand before, and it's a new brand. Like I'm working with a new fashion brand actually in Manchester. They've been going for about 2 years, so effectively a startup, a brother and sister. And I've seen them as a consumer actually for the past couple of months on Instagram. I've seen so many like targeted ads towards like me and my friends, and I've bought a few things from them. They are now one of my clients. I find it so exciting that they're in Manchester. Not many people know they're in Manchester. Not many people know about their story. So I like that. I love working with new brands and being able to highlight them, to whether it's obviously through my Fashion Career Consultancy page and doing that, because I will share stories about brands in Manchester or new brands that are around where people can try and target them, or I can speak to candidates about a role I'm recruiting for, and they will know the brand as well as a consumer, but they won't know who owns it. Their like story behind their brand, or the size of the company, or anything that's going on about them, or whether they're in Manchester or Liverpool or London. So I am actually excited about working with SMEs and newer brands, like that for me is actually my main focus now at Rise. Like we say it as a lot as a business, but for me, I'm trying to focus on SMEs and newer fashion brands that, many people may have heard of or might just not know them at all. I find it so exciting to do that rather than, selling a brand that everyone knows. I actually think it's a bit harder to do that because they might already have a perception of that brand and they might have heard things about it and might not want to work there. And most of the time, it's not. Sometimes they're like, that's a huge brand. Of course, I'd want to work for them. It'd make me way more employable on my CV. It's an attractive brand to work for. But so it's a little bit more difficult, whereas with an SME, I found actually all the brands that I've pretty much recruited for since working at Rise have been, SME brands, and they've been way easier sells. So,
and how do you approach those conversations differently to, when you're having the juggernaut conversations?
Do you mean with candidates? So I think there's two different approaches. So, sometimes actually, and I find this with agency, and I feel like in my last role at Boohoo, it was really different because it was almost like, you may have applied for a role at Boohoo, or I'm contacting you because I work at Boohoo, so you know who Boohoo are, we're amazing, we're this, we're that. Whereas with a brand that maybe people might not have known about, you sort of want to find out their interests first and their passions and find out what they're really looking for. But at the same time, I think it depends on the approach. If they're a passive candidate and you're trying to reach out to them, I'll either use things like LinkedIn Recruiter or LinkedIn to connect with people, try and engage conversation and speak to them on the phone. I think once you've got someone on the phone, I personally think I've got like quite a passionate sort of tone of voice. So sometimes I will try and get that across and be like, look, I'm working with a new brand. They're based in Manchester. It's set up by brother and sister, set up 2 years ago. They are the next big thing. There's literally a team of 8 of them. Like, they are a great brand to work with now because you will grow with that company. Like this time next year, they're going to be double the size that they are. They want to build a team underneath this role and just get them excited. And I think it's really, you just can't do it, I think, over message. I think those sort of conversations, especially if it's an SME brand that they've not heard of, you want to do it on the phone, and then you can send them their socials, whether it's their website, their Instagram, get a feel for the aesthetic of the brand, and it's got to be really relatable for them. So if they are wanting to work for a young company that's, fast fashion, but not a brand that they've already considered before, then a brand like that could be perfect because they might not have heard of them before and they're a little bit higher than the typical fast fashion brand. So it differentiates them from the other brands, I guess, around them. So it just depends, I think.
Are you finding that it's a different type of candidate for the SME market, or is it the same candidate just with?
You know what? No, I think it's the same candidate. I think if I'm thinking about, I'm just thinking about my niche, which is usually, I guess, like buyers, merchandisers, e-commerce marketing people, say in Manchester. That's a lot of my area. Or in the Midlands or in London, that can be maybe a mid-level candidate between 25 and 35k, for example, if I'm just sort of like tailoring my sort of market. And the majority of candidates I speak to, I actually think they all, I think, get to a point where they want something a bit different anyway. And I think, what I found actually with the sort of negativity in the market about like cost of living and like electricity prices and everything going up, I do actually think that most people want obviously a stable role, more money, more progression. But I think at this time of year in the market as well, where we are, I think people just want something different. And I think the SMEs that I'm working with do offer something different. They're different to the big blue chip retailers. They're offering something way different, and they're offering an opportunity for them to grow with a business, which I think people get excited about. That's what I wanted, and I feel like sometimes I can relate to that as well, because it's literally how I've sort of gone through in my career. I've gone from working for Hayes, a massive recruitment agency, Boohoo, a massive online business, to a smaller retail recruitment agency where actually I think, there's obviously perks of, pros and cons of working in both areas, but I think that's probably why I prefer recruiting for SMEs, because actually I've gone through it myself. So I feel like I can be relatable as a recruitment consultant as well. I'm not just trying to get them across the line so I can get my commission, I can get paid. I'm going through the exact same thing. So I feel like, actually, I've spoken to candidates where they're telling me their story and what they're seeking, and they'd rather work for an SME and the reasons behind that. And I can actually say, you know what, I've literally done it myself. And I think it's definitely worth it. So it probably makes it easier that I've been through it myself. I can be a little bit more understanding of their situation. But no, I think in terms of candidate, it's the same candidate, just a slightly different approach. It's been a really interesting few months, because I think when I first started back in agency, I was thinking, I need to go for the big dogs. I need to work for the big brands. That's going to be my target. And actually, quite quickly I realised there's so many more brands out there. And I think maybe because I've been so narrow-minded, I've worked for one brand for the past 2.5 years recruiting for them. They're a huge brand. I thought they were like the biggest and best in their sector, so I want to work with the biggest and best in every other sector that I work with now. But actually there's loads of other brands that as an agency we can work with, and I want to support everyone. And I actually get really excited working with new brands. I literally love recruiting for multiple brands, because I'm naturally a nosy person. I'm quite inquisitive. I like knowing what other brands are going through and new brands that are starting up and what they're offering. And I think that for me is why I've always wanted to work within retail, because I actually, as a consumer, I'm interested, but as a recruiter, I obviously want to know about them and see where I can support them. So,
I also think your knowledge of of the emerging market, if you like, can fuel your credibility with the established market as well. So it's not, it's like, definitely. I've been working with this, that, another brand, and they're challenging, within your market, and actually, just it means you have a much more holistic view, as opposed to that kind of tunnel vision, like, it's all about big e-commerce brands.
Yeah, absolutely, and brands love it as well. brands are equally as nosy. They want to know who's out there, like what they're going through, and as a recruiter, we have a consultative approach, and I try and give that as much as I can with brands. So, and I actually think that the clients that I've got and the contacts that I have in recruitment really appreciate it. I think you just are naturally a better recruiter by being transparent and giving, like you said, a holistic sort of opinion and point of view, because that's what we're here for. We're recruiting for so many brands. We're trying to get, the best people, the best jobs, and also support the clients as best as we can. So, but no, I think it's been a really interesting few months. So I've loved it.
Good. I'm glad to hear it. So, switching gears slightly, I know last time we spoke, we talked about sort of educating and encouraging more inclusive, more diverse groups of people into fashion. And it sounds like with your side hustle and your community that's kind of, you've got a real opportunity to start doing that, really. How are you finding that? Like, what kind of people are you generally speaking to, and how are you breaking through the sort of stereotype of, the historic people that would go into fashion?
So that again is that's quite a big goal for me to achieve over the next, if I'm honest, the next 6 to 12 months. I have really thought about where I can make a difference. And if I'm honest, the past few months I was sort of focusing on speaking to university students that are studying fashion degrees, and I think actually, although what through sort of doing that, I've realised that there's so much insight that I can give them, and I feel like I have been able to benefit them in a really good way. Actually, I've always had this conversation in my head that it starts before that. Those students have picked their fashion degree. They are the people that you would probably expect to be in fashion. They've already selected the degree, so actually it goes, way sort of before that in terms of their earlier stages in their journeys and their careers and their life. So yeah, I've actually decided to now focus on schools, because actually I think that is where you probably don't get people speaking about careers in fashion as much. I went to a grammar school that was really small, and honestly fashion was never a consideration. I don't even think there was like a textiles option to choose from when I was in studying my A-levels. And yeah, we had, what amazing companies come to our school to do some really good talks in careers. But actually, for me, like, I knew that I wanted to work in fashion. My mum and dad were very much like, there's no jobs in fashion. Don't know what you think you'll be doing. And yeah, in a way, even when I say that, I think actually, again, me speaking to school students, is that going to change their mind? Maybe I need to do a talk with parents and give them an insight. And do you know what? I actually would love to do that, but I think I want to start with schools, and I want to start with, areas and sort of schools that maybe don't have people going to them as much about opportunities. So I don't mean to say they're deprived of that in any way. I just think I'm thinking about my journey first, because I've only got myself to sort of compare to. So I've actually got a few talks coming up with schools in Grimsby, where I'm from, which is a super small town. There's no fashion head offices there, and I think for me, like, it's really important
famous for the Grimsby fish man that we obviously spoke about last time.
But yeah, we did.
not famous for fashion. Sadly.
Not famous for fashion. Yeah, famous for another F word. Fish and chips. Yeah. So I really do want to focus on Grimsby, because I'm from there, so I know already like schools that are there, so it's easy for me to just target them anyway. So yeah, I've got a couple talks coming up literally in the next 2 to 3 weeks actually, that I'm just going to go and give a really general careers talk in fashion. And for me, like, I really want to start with that, because I think, I mean, even the teachers that I've spoken to have said already that it's amazing for them that they don't really have people coming in speaking about fashion and giving a really general talk. Obviously now, like, it's really good for me, because like I said, I'm giving a really unbiased opinion. Like, I'm not working for one fashion brand saying, come work for us, this is what we offer, which is amazing. I think that's still an amazing thing to do. But now I can give a really general talk and say, actually, okay, there's these are the brands that are literally maybe not on your doorstep, but an hour, 2 hours away. Like Grimsby's, only 2 hours away from Manchester, it's an hour away from Leeds. There's loads of head offices around cities that if they wanted to pursue a career, how can they start and who can they target? That's what I want to give. So I'm going to start with that. I want to see how I get on with that. And I think I'm actually really excited to do that, because I feel like that for me is that for me is targeting a different area of society. I think when I think about people that work in fashion, maybe, I don't know, I mean obviously people come from small towns and have those opportunities, but I think it's just harder sometimes. I just keep thinking to myself, in that situation when I was in Grimsby, I just feel like that's all I would have wanted at that stage, someone to come and say, okay, how to get into it? Do I have to go to university? If not, how else can I approach it? How do I use LinkedIn? What is this tool? Like, how can I get my name out there? How can I even message a brand? What do I put on my CV? And that sort of thing that I feel like I can really start help by doing, and just giving a really transparent opinion. So yes, that's what I'm going to start off by doing. And then I really want to then start going to other schools across the UK where, maybe again, they just don't get the opportunities of people coming in who's, a generalist person in fashion that can give a really generalist talk about the industry. And that's really what I'm focusing on. I keep saying general because I really want it to be a real overview of everything. And don't get me wrong, it's hard to, again, I'm only one person. I've done it for 8 years, and I'm not going to be able to get everything across in 8 years. But I just feel like from my experience, I've missed out on a lot of opportunities. I can remember I missed out on I didn't get a placement year in fashion. I did a business degree. I really wanted to get into fashion. I thought that was my way in. I'll prove my mum and dad wrong. I'll get a placement in fashion and show that I'm going to be, I don't know what I wanted to be, a fashion designer. I'm not even sure at that stage. And I just didn't get it because I just didn't know where to start. I didn't know how to stand out. I didn't know the tips and tricks that I think actually are not even that difficult to sort of like really understand. I think it's just about someone telling you and giving you a different approach that I think actually after 8 years of recruiting, I've learned from all these different brands I've recruited for how to stand out and what they're looking for. So so I'm going to start off with schools. I've realised that I think that's where it starts, like just going to maybe like a younger audience and giving them that overview. And then I have thought, actually I've not really thought about how I would do it, but I am really keen to speak to parents, and I don't know how I would do that yet. So it's just an idea that I've thought about for the past few weeks, and it's something that I've always thought, actually since I started, that's where it comes from. I think, you know, parents in certain societies might not want their kids to go into fashion, so it's just about giving them more of an overview. And I think, again, like I feel like I'm really relatable to that because my mum and dad did not want me to do it. They just didn't see, you know, the outcome of it or the benefit of working in the industry. And so again, like I've gone through that experience. I don't think I'm a person that, you know, although I'm not a fashion buyer, I'm not a designer, I still don't think I'm a typical person that maybe you would have expected to be in the industry. So again, I feel like I'm probably a bit more of a relatable person in that sense because I've been through it. So so schools, then parents, then I'm not sure.
The world.
We'll see. Hopefully. I mean, I have got big plans, so we'll see.
Awesome. I mean, most people run away from PTAs, parent-teacher associations, but clearly you need to get in with some. But
I know, it really excites me, so we'll see.
Good. I think it's really interesting. I think you know, it's not just fashion, it's a lot of industries, but and a lot of roles, but you know, people have this preconceived idea of what job you can do within a fashion business. You know, there's still accountants in fashion companies.
Yeah, of course.
You know, and they're super important, and it's actually really quite interesting because you've got, you know, inventory, you've got sales coming through, you've got reporting, all, you know, there's so many different roles that sit in these businesses, especially in an SME, because you end up doing loads of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is what I think all the time, actually. Like, I've worked with so many people in the industry and recruited for so many people where like we've not even asked for a fashion degree. So for example, with merchandising roles, like a retail planner or a merchandise planner in a retail industry, they are the most analytical people that I've ever met. And I think actually, like, it's just underestimated how some of those roles actually, like, some people just don't even know what skill sets are required, or they're just not aware of them. I think my dad literally thought, well, you know, you're going to be a designer, but, you know, you're not going to be a designer because you're not very creative and you can't draw, and that means there's going to be no career for you, and you'll literally never work ever. And it's just a really narrow mindset. But then I understand it because I probably thought when I was like 11, 12 years old, well, what am I going to do in fashion? I don't even know any of the roles. But I think even now, if I told my dad half the roles that are in the industry that, you know, like you mentioned, accountants, credit controllers, solicitors, like there's so many areas that people don't think of, and he'd probably be like, oh really? Like, I didn't even realise. Like, he just wouldn't probably be aware of it. So
you can get into fashion for the love of fashion. You don't have to be, you know, a designer. You can do all sorts. I actually applied for a merchandiser role at Arcadia way back in the day. Yeah, it was like I did geography, and I've always loved clothing. Although now I'm a dad, you probably wouldn't believe it because I just
don't be silly.
No, I just wear whatever looks good with snot on it. You know, it's ridiculous.
Oh right, that's hilarious. Well, what happened with Arcadia?
Oh, I didn't get it, but because I didn't know what I was talking about. I really didn't. I was like really interested in it, and it talked about the analytical side of stuff, and I was like, that seems really, really interesting. I love clothes. I spent most of my money on clothes, all of this
Yeah.
stuff. And then the telephone interview came, so I applied, got a telephone interview, and I literally had no idea what I was talking about. So it just fell by the wayside. And I think if you can educate people from school days onwards, then they can have more meaningful conversations.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, when I think about it, I probably cringe at myself because I've probably, I can think of so many situations where I've probably been in like that, where I just didn't know what I was talking about. But I had the passion, enthusiasm, and to be honest, I do think what I'm trying to tell people is have that passion, enthusiasm, and the knowledge of what you want to do, and then you just need a little bit more, and that little bit more is what I'm trying to help with in terms of researching that role, make sure you actually understand, how that role relates to what you've been doing, and get that across any way that you can, and rehearse it over and over and over again. What do you know about the brand? Get like 3 pieces of information, rehearse it, know it, and just say it over and over and over again. And I think the things that I'm telling people, it's not like rocket science whatsoever, but actually I feel like people's sort of response is that, I've never really thought about things like that. And I probably never thought about things like that. I actually feel like every week I'm learning something new about how to stand out, and then I'm writing it down thinking, okay, I need to get some content around that. Like I read a really interesting piece on LinkedIn last week about the 10 things that you won't regret doing in your career, and it was again quite a generalist post, but I thought actually like I want to tailor that and target to people in fashion. So screenshot it. I literally did a post over the weekend that I'm going to post this week about it, because I thought actually that's really good information. So although I'm trying to help people that I guess I want to help in their early stages of getting into the industry, I also want to help people that are already in the industry in terms of how to also stand out, because again there's so many people that feel like they're at a standstill in their career. And again, working in recruitment, I do have a lot of people coming up to me asking me for advice in terms of where they're at. They could be 2-3 years in thinking, okay, what's next? How do I get an increase in salary? How do I stand out? What if I want to change my careers? So again, I'm trying to help that area as well. So yeah, but I guess like for me, again, I feel like I'm trying to be positive. I feel like I keep saying I can't do it all. I really want to do it all where I can. But it's just about taking sort of one step at a time. So,
sounds like that cheesy quote that you took the piss out of in my background.
Oh it does actually. Maybe I need one of those cheesy quotes. I need to just see it every day and think I'm a cheesy person. That's what I believe
it's
in.
Just how it is. But all good. So to finish, Amy, what you keep talking about how to stand out. What would be your top tip at the moment? Things are getting tougher for candidates, for definite. I believe. There's still jobs being created, but there is more talent out there, and it's going to get harder. So, what do you think candidates can do to really stand out at the moment?
If I just had to narrow it down to one tip, I think
1 or 2.
Okay, so my first tip, which I say to everyone in any situation, and this is probably more for those active people that are looking for jobs and looking for that next thing, is that whatever role you're applying for within a business, make sure that your application relates to that role and that business. So I mean that because I see quite a lot of like general CVs that are not really tailored to any company or any role, and that could be for people that have been in the industry for 3 years and just sort of rely on the experience that they've got and the company names that they've worked for, which sometimes is fine. But I actually think whatever situation you're in, whether you're a graduate looking for your first role in industry, or whether you're an assistant buyer that's been doing it 2 years and looking for that next step, or whatever situation you're in, I think for me, the biggest tip is making sure your application, your CV, every point of contact that you have with a brand is tailored to them and to that role. So, and for me, that could, that means if you're applying for 10, 20 jobs with whoever, you want to have 10 or 20 different CVs, and you actually should be doing that, because I think for me, like, if you're putting that effort in, you will get it back. So even when people start with their profile on a CV and they're keeping it really generalised and not really speaking about their experience or why they applied for that role in that business, I think it gets overlooked. And I think for me, like, if I was working on the other side, before, where someone had said, I want to work for Boohoo because I've been a consumer of the brand for this many years, I want to work in buying because I feel like I understand how to build a really good range for that target consumer, which is 15 to 30, anything like that, where you're sort of already showing, okay, the brand, the role, those sort of things make a massive difference. And again, when if you're a passive candidate and not actively looking for roles, but you see something that someone comes to you with, like, I think my second, and that sort of leads to my second tip, is just explore everything around you, all opportunities. I think at the minute it's very easy in this market to be like, okay, I'm gonna stay put. I'm not gonna move. I'm not gonna, ruin anything that I've got because it's a very unstable situation, externally at the minute. And to be fair, again, I understand that. I relate to that a lot. But I also think in fashion specifically, you've got to put yourself out there to progress. I just think the people that I've met that are at the top of these businesses have done that. They've taken challenges, they've taken risks, and you've just got to do that sometimes. Again, that could be relatable to active candidates as well. I think put yourself out there, explore everything, and say yes to new opportunities. And yeah, I think if you really want to progress and make a name for yourself, get your name out there, build a network, try something new. I don't think you'll regret it. So yeah, I think they're my two biggest tips. I think, yeah, making sure your application is tailored to the brand and the role, so those two specific things, when you're applying for a business, and then, yeah, explore new opportunities around you.
Awesome. I totally agree. You should, right now, everybody should be exploring, new skills, new jobs, new
definitely
contacts, new communities, literally everything. Just be a sponge and take it all in right now. Because that's what's going to make you stand out from the crowd later.
Exactly.
So what if people want to get in contact with you, get involved with the community, what's the best way to get in touch?
Yeah, so either my personal LinkedIn, which is just Amy Aberra, my LinkedIn page is Fashion Career Consultancy, and then I've also got an Instagram page for the account, which is just at Fashion Career Consultancy. And yeah, I will reply to any messages as soon as I can. But I'm building a community. I really want it to be a page where people can just network with each other as well. I really want to have like an event next year where people can meet and mingle and speak all things industry related. But for me at the minute, I'm just trying to get as much content out there as I can and help people. So yeah, fingers crossed. We'll see where we are this time next year. Maybe we can do another podcast and review.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's see. Maybe by then it'll be a huge community and we can get a few other guests on. That'd be awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time, Amy. Great to speak to you.
Thank you.
As always.
Yeah, and you.
And thanks for listening, everybody. Don't forget to subscribe. Have a good week.